Salve a tutti, sono Almaro e benvenuti in un nuovo video. Oggi siamo qui per fare un'intervista ad Iscariah, noto per essere stato il bassista degli Immortal. Prima di iniziare lo ringrazio per la sua disponibilità, per aver accettato di essere qui oggi. Vi lascio l'intervista e vi auguro buona visione. Nice to meet you, thank you for staying today.
Hey, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Why you started to do music, why you started to do with metal music, tell me about the beginning of your career and your influences.
I was quite early. I started it up my first band in 1988 after being fan from bands like Celtic Frost and Sodom and stuff like that. But the others, my friends didn't know about this kind of music back then. So we were doing mostly like AC/DC covers and stuff like this. But occasionally we also did like Sepultura. We did some Sodom stuff. But writing music wise for myself, I didn't start doing that until I think about 91. That's when I started to write more like death metal. I was really into death metal, Scandinavian death metal at the time, much more than black metal. And even so, actually, there was not much of a black metal scene back in 91. It was just not really, it was just very few bands that were still doing black metal. Yeah, so, but I started up in a covers band, and then I joined my own band, Enchanted, um, some years later. And we were heavily inspired by bands like Aberration, like early Amorphis stuff, Sentenced, Tiamat. The more like Scandinavian early death metal stuff, like Nihilist, Entombed, of course. Dismember. The first band was Enchanted. We started up that in, I think it was, I think we started up in 92. We lived in the countryside, so we were only like 4 or 5 people. And what we really had to do is just everybody I knew had to start playing instruments to be able to have a band out here. So it was a slow start for us, but me mainly was very into tape trading and writing letters with the underground scene already back then. So I was spreading, tapes to all around the world, especially after we did a rehearsal recording in about 93, I think it was. And that was spread across the world. And then we did a demo in 95 on cassette, and we sent that about. Um, Eventually, after that, our drummer left because he suffered with depression and all this kind of stuff. So we had to kind of focus on his mental health. And he was one of those guys that this dark kind of music didn't work in his advantage. It really kind of made him much worse, which is yeah, which usually is strange because it usually has the opposite effect, for people who are depressed. That if you actually listen, and this is documented actually, the more depressed the dark music you listen to, it's actually therapeutic for a depressed person. But uh, anyways, he left the band, so I had to step up and be a drummer as well as a bass player and vocalist. So we went into recording in Greghallen, which is the famous studio in Bergen. And we did like a 2-track promo there, which we were supposed to put out ourselves on a 10-inch vinyl. And what we used to do only as a promo, anyways, and we sent it around to labels. We got some decent offers also from bigger labels like Century Media. But quickly, well, not quickly, but a couple of years later, before we signed the papers, we disbanded, mainly because I joined Immortal from Norway. This was back in 99, so we still hadn't put our first album out by my first band. But yeah, obviously I got very busy with Immortal, coming in at the time when Out the Heart of Winter was just about to be released, and things were really starting to kick off with the band, and playing big festivals and stuff. And yeah, so I stayed with the band for some years, and then I left in, I think it was 2002. So that's my start.
And now let's talk about your works with Immortal, your journey in the band, your story with the band, your contribution in the album, and yeah, the album of Immortal on your point of view. And of course, why you decided to leave.
Yeah, as I said, I joined the band just before we started touring with the At the Winter album. So obviously, I did not participate in any recordings for that album. But I've been friends with the band for several years before that. So when we used to hang out together and drink, and Abbott was actually a very close neighbor to me when I lived in Bergen. So yeah, we just sat in a pub one night in Garage in Bergen, which is closed now, sadly. But that was our second home in the 90s, Garage in Bergen. Um, then he said, just why, maybe you should join. It's like, sure, I can do that. And then I woke up the next day and I thought, fucking hell, what have I got myself into now? But I didn't regret it. It was great fun. I came into the band during a turbulent time. Uh, Things were very unorganized. There was no booking. Well, we had a booking agency in Europe, but there was no one taking care of it from the artist side here in Norway. So I quickly took over the management situation for the band as well when I joined, and became the link between, well, the bridge between Europe and America to us as an artist, and did that for pretty much since I left. Obviously, I we recorded Down in Black after we did finish the touring cycle for at the Art of Winter, and we recorded that in Sweden with Peter Tactren. It was a really good experience. Peter's a great guy. Did the bass parts on that, and then we also, of course, did Sons of Northern Darkness later. I believe that was in 2000. I think it was 2001. So again, went to Sweden, did that, did a lot of touring. Played stateside for the first time. I think that was actually in 2000. We played in Los Angeles. We did our first show in the US with a band called Sadistic Intent, which is a really good American death metal band. Everybody should check them out if you haven't heard them. They've been going for many, many years. But they were friends of mine already back then before I came to the US to play with them. So it was great fun to meet them and see the shop and hang out with those guys. Yeah, so it was a busy time. But in 2002, I kind of had it. I wanted to do something on my own. In Immortal, my creativity didn't get really much, didn't come across a lot, which I understand. Coming into a band like that, you can't really expect to start having your input before many years later. I can understand that, but I was lacking something, and I felt there was a loss in me, which I really wanted to focus on. And also the business side of the band, I was not a big fan of that due to, well, that's more internal reasons. But I wanted to kind of expand into new markets. I wanted to tour the entire world, not just be stuck in the regular countries in Europe. But not everybody wanted to do that at that point. So I decided, due to this, the economy of it, and the fact that I was doing studies at the time as well, was also a key point for me leaving the band. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, but it was a good time. Still really like those guys, but I don't regret leaving the band. It was I needed to do something a bit more on my own. Yeah.
Let's talk about your project after you leave Immortal, your own projects.
Yeah, it was. I had a band called Dead to This World, which I really wanted to focus on, which is kind of where I wanted to go. It was more like thrash meets black metal, more old school influenced. Because Down in Black and Sons of Northern Darkness, and I really like those albums, but they were really polished. You know, like for me, at least back then in 2001, 2002, for a black metal, well, let's say black metal, it was a very professional, clean sound, and I wanted something a bit grittier, more dirty, and a bit more sounding a bit like Experts of Sodomy mini album from Sodom, you know. Yeah, I really wanted that, and then I did the album. Well, first actually I did a 7-inch through Iron Pegasus Records in Germany, which is also a great label. Did a 7-inch to them called Dominions of Hell, and then I did also my debut album through Costa from the same label, and then after that we signed. I signed with Soul Cellar Records, and we did put out the Sacrifice mini album, which was more kind of a sideline thing. That's what mini albums are. They're kind of material that you don't really feel like fits in on an album, so you decide to do this kind of thing. So for the coming next album, Death to This World, it's gonna be more where the debut album left it. Yeah, so I'm gonna pick that up again, and yeah. Also, I joined a US band called Necrophagia, which is a big, it's a big thing, you know. It was they have a big legacy. Started off really early, one of the first death metal bands, actually, together with like Massacre and the Possessed and Mantis, you know, from the US. But yeah, they put out the demos really early, like 85, 86, and they recorded their debut album for New Renaissance was called Season of the Dead really early. I think it was recorded in like 87, I think. And also later there was a hiatus in the band, but they came back later then with a new lineup with like Phil Anselmo, of course, and these guys. But Phil left after a while. But so I came in just as he left, and did several albums with them, actually, quite good ones as well. Harvest Ritual. Yeah, yeah, and I did one more, Goblins Be Dying. I did that. An Art of Torture. That's the one.
If you want to be remembered for an album in your career, which is and why?
Something I'm going to remember for. I really like what I do now with the label. We try to find new artists and new talent out there, and I really want to be kind of like a springboard and a tool for them to get somewhere. So maybe we will we have actually built up or at least helped building up a lot of young talents out there to get a name out there and get European tours and even they signed to big labels. So I want to leave a legacy of being someone who to extended art and lifted art into the world. Yeah, I think that's what I really want to do. Not so much. It's not so important for myself that my art gets the main focus. I just want art for art's sake and just pure ridden of ego, just arts put out there for everybody, and I want to be a part of that.
Your music project for this 2025?
My music projects for this year, I'm still working on the Death to This World album. I really want to put that out finally. It's been years of not finishing that second album. It's been due to being very busy with the label, and music is something which needs to come to me. It's not something I really like to force, but at this point I have a lot of albums, even not released. I like 3 albums worth of material which has to be puzzled together and put out. So I really hope to at least this will be recorded in 2025. Apart from this, I'm involved with a heavy metal band called Infernal Mains. Maybe we're gonna do something. Yeah, but for the most part, it's gonna be pushing out new releases from our label as well. Yeah.
So, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for staying today. Good luck for your project. Bye.
Good. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Bye.